They say 41% of American teenagers have this condition.
So this is the white spot. So it's been there. It's a little scary, knowing that many people, we don't even know, what's in our water.
Fluorosis can become more severe than a simple white spot. In severe cases, it can deform a patient's teeth.
When you see spots on the teeth like this, that means you gave the child enough of a poison that the cells that were making that organ didn't make it right.
If it's such a simple issue, how is it that it's still going on after half a century? I remember it being debated.
Yeah, it was 30 years ago.
And it's continuous debate.
But just because we've been doing something 50 years doesn't necessarily mean that it's right.
Public health officials knew then what they know now. Would we have fluoride? Would it be added to our drinking water? Well, today a coalition of scientists, dentists, and doctors are taking action to stop fluoridation until it is proven safe.
Important to know about water and having access to water. And with just water, I'm talking clean water. I'm talking water that's gone through filtrations of the earth, the natural, Mother Nature filtered water. That's what we're on, and we have been on for quite some time. In a different state, and now this state, and it's amazing, and it's nothing comparable to it. So I'm going to go into this a little bit.
Sodium fluoride, sodium silicate fluoride, and fluorosilicic acid, all used in dental offices, toothpaste, and water fluoridation, are toxic waste substances created from the creation processes in the fertilizer, steel, nuclear, and aluminum industries. These artificial substances should not be confused with the natural occurring fluoride element. Contrary to popular belief, fluoride used in fluoridation practices is not a pharmaceutical-grade substance, but instead industrial toxic waste. When these industries were faced with the problem of how to legally dispose of the excessive amount of toxic waste they were producing, Alcoa, the Aluminum Company of America, the largest producer of fluoride at the time, hired the services of scientist Gerald J. Cox to discover whether fluoride could be beneficial for preventing tooth decay. Gerald Cox, with vested interest, concluded that since the natural fluoride element can help in preventing tooth decay, these poisonous chemicals can also.
First tonight, hazmat crews from all across our area responded to a chemical leak this afternoon in Rock Island. The chemical was so strong that it was burning through the concrete there. News 8's Christy Mergenthal has the latest.
It was just before 1 o'clock Thursday afternoon when hazmat crews were called to the Rock Island water treatment plant for a chemical spill coming from this tanker truck. The chemical hydrofluorosilicic acid is used to add fluoride to the plant's water. After several hours, crews were able to clean up the leak, allowing operations to return to normal.
They had to cordon off the area, obviously, but as far as the treatment of the water and the amount of water being used by the public, there's no effect on that at all.
Now, that acid that did spill out is a chemical that they actually use every single day here at the water treatment plant. It adds fluoride to the water.
Now, Dr. Burke, your research shows that if all of the United States had been fluoridated, that would mean about 70,000 extra deaths because of cancer per annum. Those are remarkable, impressive, and in fact rather disquieting figures. Could you shortly describe your research in this field and what results did you get from it?
Yes. The 70,000, of course, would represent 1/5 of all the cancer deaths in the United States, twice as many from breast cancer in women, and twice as many as from lung cancer in man. Our studies involve comparing the deaths of all persons in the 10 largest fluoridated cities of the United States with the 10 largest non-fluoridated cities in the United States year by year. And we obtained a very remarkable curve, which you can see here perhaps. Here is the fluoridated, and here is the non-fluoridated set of 10 cities each. Here's where the fluoridation started, and before this time, both sets of cities were identical. But No sooner had fluoridation started than this curve began to go up, the deaths began to increase, so that this effect occurs very promptly within 1, 2, or 5 years.
Now this, sir, is conclusive evidence that fluoride kills because of cancer.
It is one of the most conclusive bits of scientific and biological evidence that I have come across in my 50 years in the field of cancer research.
Water is one of the most important things to your life, like I said. Do not look at it as costing too much when it is so important to your health and your family's health. So just purchasing, nowadays, is just purchasing safe drinking water or filtering your drinking water or treating your drinking water. It seems to be fine.
Mellon's economic interest in fluoridation was obvious. Fluoridation provided the chemical industry an opportunity to void liability of their poisonous fluoride waste by means of promoting it as a health benefit. The official human experiments began in Grand Rapids, Michigan on January 25, 1945. 107 barrels of sodium fluoride were delivered to Grand Rapids, where city technicians began tipping them into the city's water supply. They were the first to publicly fluoridate their water. It was to serve as the test city, and its tooth decay rates were to be compared with those of non-fluoridated Muskegon.
The study only lasted 5 years. There are no permanent teeth in a child born at the beginning of the study. It was an unblinded study. They did no measure of safety, and they claimed that there was a tremendous benefit to the permanent teeth. Well, there weren't any permanent teeth in the children that were born at the beginning of the study, and soon thereafter they fluoridated Muskegon, the control city. It's a phony baloney study used to demonstrate the benefits, where there are none.
For more than 70 years, the Public Health Service has assured society that fluoridation is safe and effective. These assurances have largely rested on the results of the 1945 Newburgh-Kingston fluoride caries trial. This study compared the safety of fluoride in drinking water for 2 New York cities, one fluoridated, the other not fluoridated. The impetus for the first fluoridated city, Grand Rapids, was born from this study. However, recently declassified documents show that this study was a complete fabrication. A trail of declassified Manhattan Project papers unearthed by investigative journalist Christopher Bryson showed that the toxicology department at the University of Rochester, which was under the direction of Harold Hodge, secretly monitored the Newburgh experiment to, quote, supply evidence useful in the litigation arising from an alleged loss of a fruit crop. In fact, these once restricted documents reveal that as far back as 1944, the Manhattan Project was spending money on toxicology studies on fluoride. Why? Because fluoride was the key ingredient used in the process of enriching uranium. Enriched uranium was the linchpin of the U.S. military's fledgling nuclear weapons program. Fluoride became a national security issue. The declassified documents suggest that Newburgh was simply another human experiment, one used to justify the interests and advancement of the nuclear industrial state. They were in large part toothless or nearly toothless. This information, however, was left out of the published version. The published study merely notes that the fluoride workers had fewer cavities than did the unexposed workers. They didn't mention the fact that they had fewer cavities because their teeth had fallen out of their mouths. The Aluminum Company of America asked Bernays to head the campaign for the fluoridation of the United States water supply.
People like Bernays, were masters of social engineering. His entire thesis, if you will, is that you don't talk to the public in a rational, scientific way. Instead, you appeal to their emotions and you invoke their fears.
In countries that speak English for the vast majority of the disposal of their hazardous waste product. That means that you and I and our children in the United States are the largest consumers of hydrofluosilicic acid. Call it what it is. Hydrofluosilicic acid, what is that? Hydro is water, fluo, fluoride, silicic, sand, and it's missing an electron. It's acidic. It'll kill you. You take your hand, dip it in like that, you're gonna die. Hydrofluosilicic acid does not occur in nature. It's a man-made molecule. And it eats through concrete, glass, stainless steel, fiberglass, plastic. You name it, it'll eat it.
What is labeled fluoride is not naturally occurring fluoride like you might find in the ground. It's actually a collection. It can be over 100 different chemicals, including some radioactive chemicals including many cancer-causing chemicals, including heavy metals, neurologically damaging elements that are called fluoride. And then this is dumped into the water supply, and the cities have the doctors and dentists convinced that this is somehow good for your teeth. Fluoride is really a clever way for industry, the mining industry, chemical processing industries, aluminum smelting and processing industries, to eliminate their toxic industrial waste without having to pay for it to be handled as industrial waste.
So what we find in the case of the Mosaic, their hydrofluorosilicic acid, is that it is not a pharmaceutical grade product, it is an industrial grade chemical. And under Section 2, hazard identification, it identifies a health hazard as being corrosive to the skin, the eyes, and the mucous membranes. If you come in contact with it through the skin or inhalation or ingestion, such as swallowing it, it may cause severe irritation and burns.
Well, you go to the doctor with pain in a joint, he says, oh, you got arthritis. Well, arthritis, joint, ritis, pain, oh, okay, joint pain. So we got somebody speaking to us in Latin, oh, you got joint pain, super duper.
And everyone's like, well, it doesn't matter. I got a XYZ filter, I got a Berkey water filter, I got a reverse osmosis for my drinking water. Or I purchase from another company and have our water brought in, and it's clean and it's from some sort of natural source, well, or whatever it is, and it's good, so we're fine. Well, that's just what you're drinking. That is so small an amount, the actual water consumption that you're doing. If you think about it, think about the major things that's happening when you're showering, when you're like taking baths, taking showers, washing your hands, all the time. Some people do. Foods, washing food, cooking, baking, that kind of stuff. Making some juice. Maybe it's Kool-Aid for the kids or juice for the kids or whatever. Whatever, anything like that. All the ice, if it's not filtered through your fridge, freezer, whatever, all the ice that is not treated unless you have it hooked up so it's so. And all the clothes, all the cloth items, that kind of stuff, that's not as detrimental as all the other things I spoke of, but it's still there. It's still a thing.
In his award-winning book, The Fluoride Deception, investigative journalist Christopher Bryson examines fluoride's disturbing history. Bryson notes that in its early days, fluoride was a widely known and well-documented killer. Documentation from early lawsuits against fluoride manufacturers, instead of conjuring up the image of a crippled worker or a poisoned forest, we see smiling children. As a new generation arises, we must sound the alarm yet again. To those who have ears to hear, this film is meant to be a warning. This film will prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that fluoride is a deadly poison being added to our water supply. It will further prove that the chemical commonly known as fluoride is the only chemical added to public drinking water to treat you, the individual, rather than the water.
When Christopher Bryson was writing this book, The Fluoride Deception, he reached out to Edward Bernays. Bernays said it was child's play to convince the American public that fluoride was good for them.
So, what are possible options? Well, you can contract someone to drill a well, to find a well, and I know it's not cheap. I've done it. And like I said in the last video, I had it at a different state when we had a house built there, and that was fine. It was no big deal. It was, under, I think it was under $15,000, just tacked in. It's in the mortgage. And we moved states, and long story short, you can watch that video. I'll try to remember to link it. But we hit where we're at now, it's a totally different terrain, and we hit two dry holes. And those dry holes, and all the time, and all the trials with the contractor and the people drilling the well, they're trying to, and the depth, that kind of stuff, that cost, just for dry holes, just large 400, 300-foot dry holes, 200-foot dry holes, together after those two failures, I think we were sitting at $13,000 or $14,000 is what it cost us, something like that. And then finally we decided to keep pushing forward because it was that important. We're not rich, but it was that important. It's how do you prioritize things that are, well, this car costs $50,000, but I don't want to spend $15,000 to drill a well for my home, my family, and I might be living here forever or for a long time, or my family will, something like that. So, put it that way, it's by prioritization. So after we were done, said and done, long story short, I think it cost us over $23,000, whatever, to get the hole drilled. And like I said, we're not rich. It wasn't easy, but we made it happen because it's that important. So what are your options if that is not an option? If you say, where I'm at, I can't drill a well, well, what are your options? Where I can't get a well professionally drilled, whatever. Well, you could like contract someone. If that's out, you could drill your own shallow well or sandpoint well. If you're not able to do it because the city says, I'm not saying to do this, but I'm just saying I know people who oversee a residence, oversee the housing area they're living in, the development, and they actually are on the board for the town or the city. And actually one of them has 2 sandpoint wells that he drilled himself, even though they're on city water and you're not supposed to. And I know someone else who had done that, and they did that when it was dark outside. Probably because they knew they weren't supposed to, according to the city, but they did it, and that's what most of their water is. They're still paying for the poison water coming from the city, but they're not using it as much, not paying as much for it, and they're not feeling the bad effects and horrible effects from it for themselves and their family because they're mainly going through the sandpoint well or the well they drill themselves.
FDA in 1997 required manufacturers of toothpaste to put this warning label on it. It's the same as you'd have on a loaded .38 caliber pistol. Keep out of reach of children. And only use a little pea-sized amount, which is about the same amount that would be in a bottle of water. And if that amount is swallowed, call the Poison Control Center or seek professional help immediately.
Began to realize that fluoridation was a problem. One of the first things I did is I looked at my tube of toothpaste. It says drug facts. I know it's a drug. If I were to give it to you, it'd have to be a prescription. That's for swallowing. When it comes to toothpaste, it also says don't swallow. And if you do swallow, contact a Poison Control Center. Well, the amount of fluoride that they're talking about is a pea-sized amount of fluoride. You probably don't see that in advertisements, a pea-sized amount of fluoride. Usually when I see an advertisement, it looks more like a Dairy Queen ice cream cone. That amount is 1/4 milligram of fluoride. Well, that's the same amount of fluoride as what we find in 8 ounces of water. 1/4 milligram of fluoride, 1/4 milligram of fluoride. Don't swallow. If you do, call the Poison Control Center.
Or another option is a whole home reverse osmosis system. So that's not cheap too. I looked into that before we got our well finally drilled. I looked into that. It's not cheap. And I'm going to run off the cuff, and it's probably different now. This is a few years back. I want to say I got quoted. It was going to be like $12,000 for the system itself, so it runs the whole home, and that's so you're taking a shower, you're turning the sink on, the faucet on, and the bathroom or bathroom A or bathroom B or bathroom C or bathroom whatever, how many bathrooms you have, and the kitchen here or the laundry room here, it's all reverse osmosis. It's all hooked up there. Even if you're watering outside, watering the plants, the garden, that kind of stuff, that's all reverse osmosis. It's a whole home type treated thing. And yes, it costs a lot, and the filterization for it cost quite a bit after that initial, it was $12,000, we'll say. I was probably off now. But I know it was, talking to him, if I remember, it's like every 1 or 2 years you're going to have to buy another filter for it. And if I remember right, I think the filter was like close to $1,000, filterization of it, concerning all the filters that need to have happen. And like I said, I could be off on that, but this is what's coming to me from memory. And so that's an option. And I do know they said, but doing that, waste a lot of water. So you have city water, your reverse osmosis system set up to it, and you're doing it, but you're wasting a lot more water with reverse osmosis, especially for a whole home filter system. So it's costing you more money for wasted water that you have to pay the city because they rape you, with the water bills. So another option, purchase pure, clean water for drinking and possibly bathing. Get enough, put it aside, put it in a barrel or something else. Whatever you got to do, just start doing that, and then bathe with that. Yes, if you want to take a shower, maybe once a week or once every other week, go ahead and do that. It still sucks because you're going to get all the poisons in it, like I'm going to go through here in a second. All the poisons through in your body, but you're going to take that down if you're towel bathing, bucket bathing, whatever it is for the remainder of the week, and especially for your children and even pets. So that's an option. Another option is you could purchase the pure, clean water for drinking, and or take weekly showers at somebody else's home that friends or family, who may be on a well and may not be on a city water system like that. That's also another option. So just trying to think of other ways that this can be done. Another possible way is collect rainwater. Collect rainwater for bathing and even drinking. I know there's a couple on YouTube, Doug and Stacy, and they live on off the grid. I forget the name of their site or their link, but sorry, I'll try to put that in there too. But anyways, they live off of rainwater for their drinking, for the bathing, for everything. And there's a whole system set up. They set up where it runs into. It's all based on gravity. It runs into their house that they built that's off grid, and it runs into there, and they use it from there, and they use it for the showers. They use it for everything. So that's an option too. Yeah, it's not easy. Nothing's easy, but nothing that's really worth it is ever easy. So that's an idea. So I'm just going to say this is a familiar saying when I talk to people a lot, and this is roughly the familiar saying I hear along the lines. It's along the lines of, I can't drill a well where I live, and it's too much money to move. I will die when I'm supposed to die, so I'm not going to worry about it. What? So because you've been doing this all your life, whether you're 60 or you're 17 or you're 30, you've been doing this like this so far, possibly, or maybe your parents lived on a well, and now when you moved out, you've been doing this. You've been living off of this poison water. That's okay. Please do a little research on this. It's the main active ingredient in Prozac is fluoride. Why? It affects the people taking this Prozac, not positively, it's negatively. And this is what they're dumping in the water system that not everyone, but most people are, they're surrounded with, and they're consuming. And yes, they're drinking it, but like I said, that's so minimal compared to showering, bathing, and all the other activities they do with water. Think about that. So anyways, to that comment, or to them people, I don't say this to their face, but I come away and I'm like, well, that's sort of like saying I'm going to die when I'm supposed to die, so I might as well just start eating rat poison. And I'd like to say, if they say that, or that's their attitude, it's like, well, actually, you don't have to eat rat poison because you're showering, bathing, drinking, and doing everything else in rat poison. Because that's the main ingredient in rat poison, too, is fluoride. That's what it's used for.
The first widespread commercial use of fluoride was for the eradication of vermin. Since the 1800s, sodium fluoride has been a key ingredient in rat poison and insecticides. These products were commonly used in and around the home to kill lice, mice, rats, and insects. Fluoride proved to be not only a good way to kill rodents, but also an effective way to kill a man. As the use of fluoride became more popular, reports began flooding in of people dying from ingesting this toxic substance. Headlines screamed, "Roach poisoned in pancakes kills 11 men. Rancher takes dose of poison by mistake." Article after article, all having the same tragic endings, proving that sodium fluoride can and does indeed cause death.
Because fluoride has been used for years as a rat poison, to kill coyotes, to kill cockroaches. Some of those opposing fluoridation were in fact dentists. And because of their advocacy for safe water, they were censored by the American Dental Association. If they worked for the Public Health Service, they got fired.
The countries now that have banned the use of fluoride, China, Austria, Belgium, Finland, Germany, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, the Netherlands, Hungary, and Japan. All these countries have said that fluoride, number one, is ineffective and toxic and should not be used. We are still using it. There's something wrong here.
I'm going to go over this little list of poisons in the water, and this isn't all of them, but this is a decent amount of them. Chlorine. Chlorine is added drinking water purification technique for a purification technique. However, it can be absorbed through physical consumption and through your skin while bathing, not only drinking. So you hear that. Fluoride. Fluoride has been added to the water for many decades, since 1960s, to help reduce tooth decay. But people consume this through drinking, showering, etc., and their pets and everyone else around them, and their garden and whatever is bombarded with this fluoride, with this poison. And it's put in there, and their whole angle was, well, it's to prevent tooth decay. Well, nothing I ever knew of that's supposed to prevent something in my mouth, my teeth, I need to consume all the time with my showers, while drinking, through everything else I get talked about. That's ridiculous. And that's the dumb thing that they had said, and people believed it. And it's still out there. They're still doing it. It does not make sense, but that's okay. It's government. So there's arsenic in there. There's lead in there. Lead is a heavy metal found in public drinking water as a result of corrosion in the plumbing systems, the city plumbing systems, the town plumbing systems, the old plumbing systems. That's where lead comes from, mostly. Mercury from industrial waste. So if you're hooked up to city water, they're pulling that water from a main source, and if it's anywhere near an industrial waste place, or where their industrial waste water runs, that kind of stuff, it's in there. And not just a little amount, minimal amounts. I mean, huge amounts are in there. Nitrates. So nitrates have become common contaminant to water, partially due to their use as fertilizer. It's runoff from factory farms, flows into surface groundwater, and ends up in drinking water. So that's not saying all farms. I'm just the major commercial stuff where they're bombarding their plants with these fertilizers, which are not good or healthy. But in the end, yourself, your family, everyone around you that is near that water, or that water source, is being bombarded with that poison too. So these are just a handful of them. But the main issue is the fluoride and the chlorine. It's horrible. It's horrendous. But that's all I have to say on this. And I'd like you to look into this, or talk to people, or really say, is it that important that I'm driving this vehicle, or is it that important that I don't want to spend this much money, or think I can't spend this much money to drink and be healthy with my family? Because the other option that you're doing is, like I said, poison bath, poison shower, poison drinking water, poison baked goods, poison on all your foods, poison for your pets, your animals, poison for everything. I mean, in that other video, also, if you look at it, I talked about what happened to our fish when we were on city water one time. But anyways, that's all I have to say. If you like this, like, share, subscribe. Thank you for watching. As always, stay vigilant, protect yourself, your family, your health, and protect your wealth.